Welcome back to the final night of the 2020 Otter Tail County Community Debates. In the last 30 minutes, we witnessed Dan Buchholz and Betsy Roeder in the race for Otter Tail County Commissioner District 1. Now we turn to Kurt Mortensen and Christine Tungseth in the race for Otter Tail County Commissioner District 3. Candidates, as the rules for this debate remain unchanged, we'll waste no time getting started. Once again, we ask that you please be mindful of the time limits out of courtesy to your fellow candidates and to the audience. With that said, Mr. Mortensen, you have 3 minutes on the clock for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Kurt Mortensen, and thank you to the Fergus Falls Journal, Leighton Broadcasting, PEG Access, and KBRF for arranging for this forum here tonight. Thank you for the City of Fergus Falls for hosting this event, and thank you to Ms. Tungseth for participating here tonight. My wife, Heidi, and I live in rural Underwood in Torrential Township. We have 2 adult children. Our son is an engineer. He and his wife have 2 young children, and they live in the Fergus Falls area. Our daughter is an RN at a hospital in Fargo. My wife and I are blessed to have family near, but also to live in a county such as Otter Tail County. To live in the county with the most lakes of any county in the entire nation is truly a blessing. I have the unique experience of growing up my entire life in District 3, except for my years in college. I graduated from Underwood High School, went on to the Fergus Falls Community College, then went on to Moorhead State University, and later graduated from the University of Minnesota Law School. After law school, my wife and I needed to decide what we were going to do next. Having both of us been from this area and grew up in this area, we desired to move back to this area and live on a family farm that was homesteaded by my great-grandfather in the 1800s. That opportunity came when I started working for 3 district court judges in Otter Tail County. A short time later, I accepted a position in the Otter Tail County Attorney's Office as an assistant Otter Tail County attorney, where I worked for over 28 years. During that time, I was involved both in criminal and civil areas of law. At times, I advised the county board on legal issues. I also worked with many county departments and most department heads, gaining an understanding of the functioning of each of those departments. As a prosecutor, I also worked closely with law enforcement and came to appreciate the role and the great function that they serve in our community. My decision to run for county commissioner was a bit of a journey. After it was learned that John Lindquist, the current commissioner, was no longer running, I received a number of calls asking me to give consideration to this position. After receiving a good many calls and giving it strong consideration, I made a decision to run for county commissioner. And since I made that decision, I've never turned back. As commissioner, I will work hard to make informed and reasoned decisions in the best interests of the citizens of Otter Tail County. In doing so, I will draw from my years of experience in the Otter Tail County Attorney's Office in making decisions and applying values relevant to Otter Tail County citizens. I respectfully ask for your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, you have 3 minutes.
I would like to thank RC and PEG Access for hosting this debate, as well as the Daily Journal, KBRF Radio, and my opponent, Kurt Mortensen, and the audience for tuning in. My name is Christine Tungseth, but most people call me Tina. My decision to run for Otter Tail County Commissioner hasn't been a hasty one. It's one I've thought about for years due to my interest in county government. My husband, Darrell, and I would often discuss local, county, state, and national issues. We were concerned about the decline in integrity of government and the impact it would have on Christian and rural values for future generations. I remember Darrell encouraging me that when I got close to retirement from my position as a sergeant at the Otter Tail County Correctional Facility, where I am still working full-time, so he encouraged me to run for county board, and I haven't forgotten those conversations. While an Otter Tail County employee, I've been involved in committees such as the Otter Tail County Labor Management Committee. Presently, I'm on the Insurance and Benefits Committee as well as the Wellness Committee, and I have been on those for years. In addition, I am the Law Enforcement Labor Union Steward for the Corrections Supervisory Group, so I'm familiar with negotiations. Previously, I earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of North Dakota in Business and Public Administration. Later, my husband Daryl and I ran a successful farming business for 38 years on his family farm of many generations in Otter Tail County. We had dairy cattle for 22 years, so I'm very familiar with hard work. And then we took on beef and grain farming, so I'm familiar with land, water, and farming issues. Daryl also served on the Fergus Falls School Board for 9 years, which he loved doing until he died in 2017. This last year, when John Lindquist announced he was retiring, I was asked by several friends if I thought about running for District 3 Commissioner. I prayed about it, and I know that God opens and closes doors, but in order to get the answer, you need to walk through it. So I did.
Thank you. Our first question, we'll rotate the order again so that we'll begin with Ms. Tungseth. We'll start with the environment. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes, and more than 1,000 of those are located in Otter Tail County. What role should the county play in preserving these natural resources, and what ideas do you have for improving our lakes, rivers, and streams? And Ms. Tungseth, I'll ask you to just pull your mic just a little closer to you so the audience can hear you well. Perfect, thank you. You have 2 minutes.
I've been going door to door, and I've been talking to a lot of people. And one of the things I'm finding out from farmers and also from people that live on the lakes is that we have some big water issues. I know that it has gone to the one watershed and one plan, but I think that this needs to be developed further. There are many issues, and so this is something that I've been reading and looking into. And we need to be listening to our communities, and we need to look at more of a comprehensive plan. But I think this is just in the infant stages right now.
Thank you. Mr. Mortensen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I certainly agree that the lakes in Otter Tail County are one of our most significant assets that we have. Because of that, we need to take steps, reasonable steps, to protect those lakes. We have a Land and Resource Office in our county, which serves part of that purpose, which enforces reasonable regulations to ensure that setbacks from lakes are followed and that erosion into lakes is limited. And we have to continue that effort. Also, invasive species is something that the county has to continue. That task force has to continue doing its work to educate the population on what can be done safely with watercraft going in and out of lakes to prevent the spread of the different types of invasive species that can happen. Also, the county is taking steps on a strategic long-term plan that looks at the attributes of the county and looks at what needs to be done to protect these assets. And I've had the opportunity to be a part of that committee for over a 2-year process. And certainly the lakes of Otter Tail County is a priority in reviewing the values that that we need to consider in protecting our county and keeping it as it is. It's crucial to tourism, and now we have bike trails that can further expand the interest of our lakes out into the community.
Thank you, sir. For our second question, District 3 represents a number of small towns with populations under 1,000 citizens. Cities like Underwood, Dalton, Rothsay. Public improvement and infrastructure projects can be challenging with a smaller tax base. What will you do to ensure these areas are well represented in county planning? And Mr. Mortensen, we'll begin with you. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Certainly the health of small towns is an issue, particularly now with COVID-19 and the limitations that have been placed on businesses. Our restaurant industry is feeling that implication. So small businesses need to be protected in this matter. I know the county currently has, through the CARES Act, I believe $7.2 million that's available generally, and a portion of that is available for businesses to address the struggles that they're going through currently. I believe there have been approximately 218 applicants to receive assistance through this program. I believe the limit on that is $10,000 per applicant. That is one way that the county can assist in reaching out currently. But in the long term, the county certainly needs to factor in the small communities in their strategic long-term plan looking into the future. What can the county do to assist and grow the economy of the small towns? Infrastructure is a piece of that. Certainly increasing high-speed internet is a piece of that. Expanding broadband throughout the county is a piece of that. All that can allow for both industry and business to expand in the small communities and also in the rural areas. We see a lot of remote working from home as a result. Businesses have learned that they don't need all the bricks and mortar. What can the county do to assist that becoming a reality?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, you have 2 minutes.
Basically, I agree with what Kurt was saying regarding broadband. That's such a critical thing that we need to get, going in the county. And there is the CARES funding. I know that the county has put up hotspots different places, and the school has also given school children hotspots. But we need to do more. Due to all the unrest in some of the bigger cities, we are seeing the opportunity to have some people from the cities move our direction and work remotely. And if we have broadband, this can expand our economic base and also potentially lead to some permanent residence, not only for people coming to their lake homes, but also people building new residences. And in addition, I'd also thought in terms of some of these smaller towns, if they have any kind of retail going on, we should encourage them to also venture into the online marketing. And if we have broadband in place, that would be something available to them.
Thank you. Farmers have been hit hard in recent years, and the COVID pandemic has added insult to injury. All of us depend on the success of local farmers to put food on our tables. With crop prices down and unemployment up, what role would you play in ensuring the success of Otter Tail County agriculture? And Ms. Tungseth, we'll ask you first.
Well, I think I've talked to some of my neighbors, and that is definitely a concern as far as what we can do to help them, particularly if they're trying to move things on so that their children can take over the farm. Equipment is so expensive. If we can work toward possibly some loan assistance so that some of the younger farmers can get going. As far as as far as with these young farmers, giving them as much support as we can, probably financially, would be what we could do.
Thank you. Mr. Mortensen, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Infrastructure is key to the agricultural community. The agricultural community needs to have the necessary infrastructure that it needs to operate and to operate efficiently and to continue that production. Certainly our roads and bridges are a priority to keep them in the state and the condition that will serve our agricultural community. I know there's been a challenge in Orwell Township with a recent bridge that's been out for a period of time that's soon going to be up and running, but certainly recognize the challenge that that's caused in terms of farmers taking alternative routes to bring their produce to market. As a part of my campaign, I've reached out both by phone and in person if people are comfortable doing that. And a theme that was that resonated in speaking with the agricultural community was the roads and how critical that is for the farming community. It can rattle equipment that can require costly maintenance, and that's just a real reality. And I know the county has a master road plan which sets priorities of which road needs to be addressed first. It's important that we follow that plan, but also listen to those who are dealing with the challenges. I believe it's Highway 81 and 60, and I could be wrong, but it's in Eagle Lake Township where there were several that expressed a need for some work there. So, again, infrastructure, roads and bridges is a key for productive agriculture moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
I would agree with Kurt that infrastructure is very important, and I do support maintaining the roads because that's something that is critical to the farming economy. And so,
Okay. Any further comment, Mr. Mortensen?
No.
Okay. We'll actually take that notion a little bit farther. Like our first debate, we're going to attempt to squeeze in one last question before our final questions. But to do so, we'll have 60 seconds to respond to this question. So the question is simple. Ask members of the public what they'd like to see addressed, and few topics are more popular than roads, bridges, and highways. How will you prioritize spending to ensure our roadways are taken care of? And Mr. Mortensen, we'll give you 60 seconds, sir.
Certainly with the economic slowdown as a result of the response to the COVID-19, all governments will need to look at their budgeting with an eye towards improving efficiency of each department. And I'm aware this year that the county proposed budget for 2021, I believe, is an increase of 3.1%, and that the levy increase is 2.7%. We can look at that and ask if that's a reasonable increase. I think it reflects that the county has negotiated labor contracts at 3%, so they appear to be hanging very close to that. Bottom line, you need the dollars in order to maintain the roads and the infrastructure that we're talking about. Responsible budgeting is a key to that.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, you have 60 seconds.
well, one of the things I do also agree that we need to be fiscally conservative. We need to look very closely at what we're spending money on. We talked earlier, or the previous candidates talked about the trail. Well, that trail is looking at $6 to $7 million. There were grants, but there was also, I believe, taxpayer match, which I think they would have to levy for. And to me, what I would view as minimal usage through some pretty difficult terrain, maintaining that is going to be a very expensive thing for people. We need to, as Kurt mentioned, look at each of the departments and look at efficiency of those departments. For an example, at the Sheriff's Department, one of the things that, because of COVID, we're doing less transports. Well, we're doing more ITV for court. With that being said, that's also a savings where that money can be used for other things.
Thank you. Once more, our final questions are a little different and will be for each candidate individually. The time limits will remain the same at 2 minutes, but there will be no option for rebuttal, and we will reset the order of questioning. So, Mr. Mortensen, we'll begin with you. Mr. Mortensen, one of the unique aspects of this race is the relationship that you and your opponent have, though from different angles, to law enforcement. As a county commissioner, you would oversee the largest law enforcement agency in the county. You've worked for years with the county attorney's office. So what changes, if any, would you work toward to ensure our courthouse and our sheriff's office are providing residents with the highest service in an era of increased scrutiny? You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. It's been a privilege for me as a prosecutor to work with law enforcement over the years that I did. As I mentioned earlier, I respect the great role that they provide to our community in terms of public safety. And it is a challenge currently with the sentiment that has been expressed in some of the major cities towards law enforcement. Part of that has to do with a lack of education, I think, and increased communication into the public as to what law enforcement does is a piece of that. And I believe law enforcement looking at itself and reaching out in the community in ways that it may not have before can improve that. I think we're very fortunate locally to have a sheriff's office and a city police department that is involved in the community. They know what's going on. They're attending the events. They're attending the organizations. They're living in this community as families. And we reap the benefits of that in a small community, where in a larger community that becomes more distant. I think as a small community, we just need to continue to do that. Ask the questions if you have questions regarding what has transpired in any particular law enforcement interaction. They want to be responsive. They want to communicate their role to the community. They truly desire that this be a safe community, and they want to take reasonable steps to make that happen.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tungseth, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, you also have considerable background in law enforcement through your years in the corrections system. Again, if elected, you would be responsible in part for supporting the county sheriff's office, courthouse, and county jail. How would you work with Sheriff Fitzgibbons to ensure our county patrol and correction officers are well supported, but also well trained and accountable? You have 2 minutes.
Well, it gets to be quite a complex issue. Barry is really easy to work with, and he's very progressive in trying to do things with the sheriff's department. But the county does have some serious issues with addiction and drug use, and we need to start addressing that. I work 12-hour night shifts, so I see this. And when I first started over 30 years ago, most people that came in that were arrested were they were working. We maybe saw alcohol abuse, but now very few are working. And the drugs and alcohol that are mixed, and also those that are coming in with mental illness, we have some terrific issues. And I have some, this is kind of after my own heart, I have some things that I would like to do to start to implement wellness in some of these people. And they would be taking some of the existing services and incorporating them to the jail and the sheriff's office to see some people have some success in life.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. You'll now have 3 minutes each for closing statements. And following our order, Ms. Tungseth, you'll go first. You have 3 minutes.
I'm a pro-life Christian. I'm a strong supporter of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I'm a strong supporter of law enforcement and the Second Amendment. I'm also a member of the NRA. If elected, voters will gain sound leadership from a fiscal conservative who will listen to you, the voters. I pledge to study all information, talk with my constituents, listen, and work toward ethical, reasonable, viable solutions regarding county values and issues, while prioritizing tax dollars wisely. Voters will gain a full-time commissioner employed for a half-time position. I have completely funded my own campaign and have turned down donations. I will not be ingratiated to anyone who would hinder me from working for what is right, honest, and fair. Although the Otter Tail County Commissioner position is bipartisan, I've been informed by the Otter Tail County Republican BPOU that I have been selected as the recommended commissioner candidate for District 3. My father served in the United States Army for 22 years, retiring with the rank of major. He felt called into the ministry, where he later earned his master's and doctorate in theology. He instilled in me the love of country and service to that country and my community. If I'm elected, I will serve Otter Tail County with dedication and integrity and work to make changes that make positive differences in people's lives and protect our rural values for future generations. Thank you to all the voters who took the time to tune in and listen this evening. I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd.
Thank you, Ms. Tungseth. Mr. Mortensen, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for making this evening possible. Thank you to RC for moderating this event here today. During my campaign, I reached out by phone to residents in the district because of the health concerns of COVID-19. I listened to their ideas and their concerns, and I was encouraged by their kind words and their support. My decision to run for District 3 Commissioner is centered upon a desire to continue to move the county forward and to positively affect and impact the county's management of resources. I desire to work towards maintaining a high quality of living within the county through efficient and responsive budgeting, but also we need to adapt to the current challenges, the economic and the health challenges as a result of COVID. Otter Tail County is a great place to live. I want it to be a place where our grandchildren are raised. I want it to be a place where your grandchildren are raised. I wanted to attract young families. I wanted to attract business and industry. Often these go hand in hand. But to do so, we need affordable housing. We need quality daycare. We need to continue our high standards of education. To support business and industry, we need workers and the necessary infrastructure for those businesses. We need to maintain our roads. We need to maintain our bridges. Continue expansion of high-speed internet and broadband throughout the county. We need to offer options for active living for families of all ages. And certainly our lakes and our trails and our parks are a piece of that. However, we need to encourage growth in a manner that's consistent and compatible with our agricultural community. We need to provide them the infrastructure they need to operate productively. With the tight margins today, that certainly can be a challenge. But bottom line, we need to plan, and we need to plan taking all of these aspects into account. My service in the Long-Range Strategic Plan Review Committee was an opportunity for me to offer input and to help define and change or have input to the direction of this county. The committee included stakeholders and citizens who were interested in the future of this county. It spanned over 2 years, and soon there will be a plan available for more public comment. I became involved in this even before I made a decision to run for county commissioner. I wanted to be involved as a resident so that I could have a part and some input in offering direction to the future planning of our county. I desire to continue in public service by serving the residents of District 3 and representing their interests on the county board. Therefore, I ask for your support on November 3. Lastly, I would like to thank Commissioner John Lindquist for his years of service on the board for all these years. However, his work is not quite done yet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the conclusion of the debate for Otter Tail County Commissioner District 3, but the District 5 race is coming up. We'll take a brief 2-minute intermission as the next candidates take the stage, so stay tuned.